What is up YouTube, and today we're just going to be talking about all the ML or Moonlight 5 stars in the game, the light dark units in this game, and how they actually rank in a tier list for PvP. Now I actually don't own every single ML 5 star, actually I'm missing quite a lot. I don't really spend money on this game to be honest, and I'm missing some very key ones, right? I'm missing like Arbiter Vildred, I guess Pirate Captain Flan to an extent, Eternal Wanderer Ludwig for cleavers, ML Ken, even something like Dragon Bride Senya I'm missing, which is very, very powerful, and also Ambitious Tywin. Two of the best knights in the game I'm missing out on, and I'm even missing Abyssal Euphine and also Blood Moon Haste. So I'm missing out on some really crazy units that are very strong in the current meta. Spoiler, spoiler. But I'm still going to be ranking them because I think I do have some knowledge about this game and some merit because I've been playing the game for a while. Also, just for reference, before people are like, oh, do you actually, play PvP that much? You don't really upload any RTA content or Guild Wars content as much as other creators. Now, I might not be as highly ranked as some other content creators, but I do actually play RTA sometimes. I do actually hit Emperor every single season. I end Emperor some seasons depending on whether I have time to actually grind it, because RTA World Arena is mostly a grind in the last few days, trying to keep your rank. But as you can see, I'm Emperor currently right now as well, although it doesn't really mean as much because we do have the Epic 7 World Championship going on, so a lot of the best players aren't really, I guess they are still playing even more because they're practicing, but you get what I mean. I do have some knowledge about PvP, so I'm just going to be ranking these guys and these units into a tier list for basically all of PvP for you guys. So here we go, this is going to be the tier list. I'm going to be doing it live for you guys just because I think it's more fun, so I have to actually kind of think in the moment and not really just pre-planned. So we have 5 tiers here. We have the meta-defining tier, pretty self-explanatory, just meta-defining units. They're going to be pretty much everywhere, commonly picked in World Arena, also very popular in Guild Wars, especially defense. Honestly, for Guild Wars offense, you can make any unit work. We're going to be mostly talking about Guild Wars defense with some offense mixed in because offense you can always pre-plan, but defense units are just a lot stronger because you have to actually be ready for every single unit in the game. Then also arena as well, defense teams and offense teams, pretty similar to Guild Wars. So I'm going to start off on the top here. So we have meta-defining units, right? We also have strong units, pretty strong units, and then niche counter picks. You pick these units, sometimes as a counter pick. Cleave units, if you're a dirty cleaver, basically meaning if you have good speed gear, then you cleave with them. Cleave is very strong right now, so a lot of these cleave units are going to be meta-defining, to be honest, but I'm going to put it in its separate own tier because Cleave's not accessible to everyone. And then the buff Please Smile Get tier, pretty self-explanatory. So first off, Abyssal Euphine, meta-defining, she is super strong. Not as strong as before because there's a lot of counters. People can run Last Rider Crow into her. The new ML Luna completely shuts her down. Briar Witch Assyria with her exclusive equipment is very good against her. Savior Auden, who is very popular in the Asian servers and Korean servers, are very, very popular. Are very, very strong against her. And even units such as Navy Captain Landy can stand toe-to-toe with her, and same with Lone Crescent Bellona and Lionheart Zermia. But still, even against those counter picks, she's still very strong. She synergizes very well with Conquer Ilias because of her very powerful S1. So I want to put her in the meta-defining tier. Next we have Ainz. He's free to play. He was free to play from Overlord collab. You can't actually get him anymore until the collab reruns, but he's pretty terrible. And the reason is his S3, although it's very cool, Death Sentence, it's like a one-shot mechanic, right? You can get resisted, which is very sad, and you can't actually ignore effect resist with it, with like a soul burn or anything. And also he's very, very stat hungry. One of the most stat hungry units in the game actually, and he doesn't have that much payoff. Definitely needs a buff. Ambitious Tywin, also meta-defining. I would honestly put him above Abyssal Euphine because he's way better on Guild Wars defense, one of the best Guild Wars defense units in the game. And he's very good in RTA. He has an extremely annoying S3 with that stun and defense break. He can steal souls, he can cleanse your team, he can provoke, right? Very, very strong. The stealing souls thing is the most annoying thing, so just a very strong unit. You need very specific units to counter him, and even then, those units don't really counter him. You can run like Dragon King Sharoon to counter him, but Dragon King Sharoon kind of just can get ignored. Like, he can just not S3, and he still does so much with his soul sealing and provoke and cleansing, and he does very crazy damage as well. So very, very strong meta-defining unit. Apoc Ravi, I don't think she needs a buff, to be honest. People think she needs a buff now because she fell from being the best unit in the game to like not the best, but she's still a niche counter pick, right? She has very good injuries. She is pretty decent against some units that have to scale off health. You know, against Laya, she's pretty good. But the thing is, she is also weak against injury. So if you want to pick her against health scaling units, you have to be careful sometimes, because if they pick injury units, they can kind of counter her, right? Death Dealer Ray, Belly on injury set, even Navy Captain Landies are sometimes on injury set, can kind of screw her. So you have to be very careful how you pick her. So that's why she's a niche counter pick. Arbiter Villager, same thing, niche counter pick. Just an anti-cleave unit. Not as good as other counter pick units, but still used. I've seen him sometimes. He's paired with like Blood Moon Haste sometimes, because he dies very fast, activates Blood Moon Haste's passive, and Arbiter Villager just stays alive after he dies. I don't think he needs... Honestly, I think he already did get a buff with the exclusive equipment, so I think he's okay now. He's a niche counter pick. Archdemon Shadow, AoE Seal, just a worst ML Luna, just a good anchor unit as like a unit to stop people from using passives, just how it is, just pretty good there. Cleave unit, Architect Laika, very good with like strays, you know, you just one-shot a lot of units here. Same with Astromancer Elena, also very good cleave unit to stop counterattacks, good against counterattackers. Bellion, strong unit, I don't think she's meta-defining. Is she meta-defining? I'll say she's meta-defining just because she stops soul gain, which is very powerful, very good against ML Luna, very good against Cleave, very good against health scalers, and there's a lot of builds you can run on her, which is very annoying. You can put her on like a super tank Aureus build to protect your team on protection set. You can put her on injury set to deal with a lot of health scaling bruisers, which there are a ton of, like Blood Moon Haste and Laya. You can also put her on a full damage build on 3F Artifact, which is from the Overlord collab, where she's just full health and she does a ton of damage. You can also put her on Elbrus, you can put her on counter set, right? There's so many options you can put on her, so that's why she's very strong. You never know what type of Bellion you're fighting, especially on the ladder or on Guild Wars defense. You have to be very scared because you don't know what type of Bellion you're fighting, which makes it very good. Blood Moon Haste, meta defining, one of the best units in the game right now. He is insane. Very good utility unit, does a ton of damage, you know, very scary because you have to focus him down, but he's very bulky, a lot of healing, and if you don't focus him, he gets his passive activated, Blood Aura, which makes his S3 kill through a lot of stuff, and he revives his units, right? So very scary, just over buffed unit, went from garbage tier, literally one of the worst, if not the worst unit in the game, to one of the best, if not the best. Bryo Traceria, I don't think she's meta defining, she's just very strong. She's very good against, you know, revive units, obviously. She is very good if you're cleaving as well. The only thing is, if you don't win fast with her, she kind of just rolls over and dies, so you have to be careful. She's very squishy, even though she has that immortality buff. It can get stripped off very easily by a lot of units, and she can get CC'd, right? So strong, just a strong unit. I don't think she's like meta defining anymore because the meta kind of shifted away from her. A lot of units are tankier now. Against very tanky units, she's not as good. You can see like the meta defining units are very, very tanky, so she can't really kill through anymore. So we'll put her in the strong tier. Closer Charles, yeah, we're gonna put him in the cleave tier, cleave unit. Commander Pavel, same thing. Concorlius, strong unit. I don't think she's meta defining anymore. There's a lot of counters to her, like Moon Bunny Dominion. A lot of openers just outspeed her now. Zio, ML Luna, and you know, she is still, you know, some people will say she's meta defining now, but I think she's just strong. She doesn't seem as good. Dark Corvus, just a niche unit for Guild Wars offense, also for World Arena if you want to last pick him as like an anchor solo unit. Actually, cleavers like to pick him because what people actually end up doing is they draft full defensive against Cleave, and then if you pick Dark Corvus, they have to ban him because he can just, you know, survive through everything, sustain up, and just one-shot your entire team slowly. So very good anchor unit. And what I mean by anchor unit is like a unit you pick that, you know, you kind of expect the rest of your team to die after doing some stuff on the field, kind of weakening the enemy field, and then your anchor unit will just kind of 1v4. Death Dealer Ray, oh god, this unit is like the definition of cancer. I'm gonna put him like somewhere up here. He is super annoying because he has that sleep. He does a ton of damage with his detonate. He gives your entire team effectiveness, which is actually very underrated. And he makes them all apply venom, so he can detonate it. He can sleep enemy units, which is super frustrating. If you don't actually have a unit known as Dragon King Sharoon, you actually have to ban him because she is so good against him. But even then, Death Dealer Ray can do fine against her, and he's just very strong. His S3 is super annoying, but his S2 is like really powerful. CR push, makes your entire team apply Venom with that Pestilence buff, and the detonation is just crazy. Not only does it do a ton of damage, but while you're applying injuries, you make units such as Blood Moon Haste, Ambitious Tywin, and Bellion do less damage, while also buffing your damage from like your Urban Shadow Shu, who also detonates injuries. Desert Jewel Bazaar, counter pick, just good cleanser with CR push, good against like Payras and stuff like that. Also good against like Crimson Armin if they are running protection set. Design Lilibet, also a good cleansing niche unit. I think she is okay, but just not as good as like Desert Jewel Bazaar. I've seen her into like also like, you know, very heavy debuffing units, but just keep in mind Seal really screws her over, so Nogwol and ML Luna kind of destroy her. Dragon Bride Senya, meta defining, ton of damage. If you ignore her, she does a ton of damage, right? Also, if you ignore her and hit the backline unit, you also will proc her passive, which makes her do even more damage. So you kind of have to focus her down before you kill the backline unit. But she has like 40k health, so good luck. So very, very frustrating to play against. I actually pre-ban her and Blood Moon Haste every game because, as you saw, I don't own them, and they are just super, super dominant. Dragon King Sharoon. This unit is going to be a niche counter pick. Very strong against Death Dealer Ray and also Ambitious Tywin. I kind of want to put her in meta defining, but I'm just keep her here because you can't pick her unless you see Ambitious Tywin and Death Dealer Ray. But against these two units, she's very strong. She's a very common pick in Guild Wars offense. You pick her into Ambitious Tywins, right? Very, very strong there. Also in RTA, you pick her in the third slot, Ban Protection, and she just kind of stops these two units from using their S3. These units will still do a lot of damage because they're just very powerful, overloaded kits, but by stopping their most powerful ability, you do a lot. And Dragon King Sharoon's S3 is very strong. The stun is very good on her S1 against Janua's, and the fact that she can actually CR push if you have her on the Sacred Tree Branch artifact makes her very strong. Eternal Wanderer Ludwig, best cleave unit in the game, in my opinion. If you don't have Bellion or Bellion's banned and he's picked in the third slot, be ready for a World of Pain because this unit will just one-shot your entire team. Faithless Lidica, another cleave unit, just very good at CR pushing. Just keep in mind her speed tier is a little low, so she's not that great unless you have like faster units with her. Fallen Cecilia needs a buff, just terrible. Just way better knights out there. Judge Kisei, cleave unit, just needs a buff. Just way better cleavers out there. Last Rider Crow, another strong unit. He is good at mitigating AoE damage. The thing is, there's not a lot of AoE damage in the game besides Abyss Lufine and Bellion, and I guess Navy Captain Landy. So there's actually a lot, but not meta defining because there's really good knights out there already, right? You can pick Crimson Armin, who's probably the best right now. You can also pick Albedo, who's also very strong. So there's a lot of other knight options, but he's still pretty good. I'll put him like above Briarwitch, below Conquerlius. Maybe like this actually for RTA, but for Guild Wars, Conquerlius is still above. Nine Artemia, same thing. Not same thing, but very good against counter-attacking units. So kind of like a counter pick, I'd say, but yeah, I'm going to put her in niche counter pick, right? You can't really blindly pick her. Actually, I'll just put it in strong because I'm thinking about it, and everything has extra attacks or counter picks, right? Or counter attacks and extra attacks, right? Blood Moon Haste does, Abyss Lufine does, Bellion does, Conquerlius does, Laia does, Janua does. Janua destroys her, by the way, but Janua does. So I guess you can keep her in strong. She's a pretty strong damage dealer. Little Queen Charlotte, niche unit, kind of made a comeback because of this ugly unit and this ugly unit. She can one-shot them after her buffs, but you can't pick her all the time. She needs a lot of support around her, so it's really hard to actually use her well. But against those units, against dark units, she's very good. Lone Crescent Bologna, strong unit. I'm going to put her like here. She's very good against AoE teams. She gets countered by units like Lionheart Sermia, Savior Auden, and anything that seals her, and even Sea Phantom Politis. But very strong damage dealers. She's very good in Guild Wars offense. Very good against Navy Captain Landys, and has one of the highest win rates in World Arena, which is pretty interesting. Maid Chloe, I think she's very strong as well, especially for Guild Wars offense and also for World Arena. She's pretty underrated. She has a revive attack buff, right? And she's just very, very annoying. The only thing is, if you want to use her, you need to actually have all of your units with her at around 50% effect resist. That way when you have her on an artifact known as Shamadra's Staff, and also with her passive, they'll all automatically be at 100%. That'll make it so you can, resist Abyssal Euphinae's attack down, resist some Bellion debuffs if she doesn't get effectiveness buff and stuff like that. So kind of weird how to build around her, but if you do, she's very strong. ML Ken, niche counter pick, very good against Navy Captain Landy, very good against crit units. Just keep in mind he gets one shot by Savior Audens, and also if he gets sealed, very weak. Meter Cowrick, also a strong unit. I think he's not as strong as before, but still very good, especially against like ML Luna, and also very good against debuffers. Only thing is he's very weak to Cleave, so if you run into a Cleaver, you're kind of screwed, so you want to make sure you pick him later in the draft, but still very good cleanser. Navy Captain Landy, yeah, she's somewhere around here. Very frustrating. She counters Death Dealer Ray, she counters Ambitious Tywin because she can't be CC'd. She is like even against Abyssal Euphinae, honestly, and she counters Bellion. Just very strong. She does get destroyed by units such as Laya, especially in longer fights, and I guess some other units. But she's also very good against Janua, so she's very, very strong. Best damage dealer in my opinion. Yeah, just very, very annoying to deal with. ML Luna, I don't know where to rank her. I've been playing with her a lot, and every game I've played World Arena, she's first picked or banned. So I'm going to put her in meta defining. People say you can counter her with like Infinite Horizon Acades or like, cleansers. But the thing is, if you see an ML Luna on the enemy side, this is the only unit in the game, by the way, that does this right now, in RTA especially. You have to draft your entire team comp around her, or you have to just give up and just be prepared to ban her. And if you're against the person that first picks her, right, and you decide to draft entirely around her, they just draft against that, right, and then you're kind of screwed. If you decide that you're gonna ban her and just draft normally, the enemy will, or the person who first picked her will notice that, and then kind of just abuse that fact, and then just counter your units. So it's very annoying, right? So in Guild Wars offense, she's extremely good. She just destroys every defense as well. And I've been using her on defense on like Proof of Valor, and it seems like people don't know how to deal with her that well if you pair her with like Celine and Janua, who work very well with her. Yeah, very strong. I think I might be overrating her. She might be like somewhere here or like even here. Honestly though, I think right now, probably because people don't know how to deal with her entirely and there's not a lot of counters versus her, she's one of the best units in the game, if not the best. Operator Cigarette honestly needs a buff. She's a Cleave unit, but she needs a buff because, yeah, there's not a lot of good barrier units right now. She was very strong when Fallen Cecilia was very strong, but yeah, there's not a lot of barriers. And I guess you can say that there are like protection set users, but you don't know what units are on protection set, so I think she needs a buff. Pirate Captain Flan, niche counter pick, good against slow teams with not a lot of cleansing. She's very strong if you pick her in the right scenarios, but overall, mostly a counter pick against tanky teams that don't have a lot of cleansing and are very weak to stuns. Remnant Violet, he did get buffed, or he is getting buffed. He was down here, but I think after his buffs, he'll be a pretty good niche pick. Might even be strong. So I'm gonna make a hot take here and put him in strong. I think after his buffs, where he doesn't rely on getting the evasion buff, he'll be pretty good. He'll be like Savior Auden, but without the invincibility buff and just having more damage. So we'll put him up here. I might be entirely wrong, but his base stats are higher than Savior Auden because he's a 5-star. So I think he'll be able to do a lot of damage. I think he'll be like honestly somewhere around here, but we'll see. Requiem Rwana, actually she's the best Cleave unit in the game besides Ludwig, because yeah, her S3 is brutal. Increases skill cooldowns, does a ton of damage. You can abuse her with the band protection slot. If you pick Zio and band protection and then you pick Requiem Rwana, and you don't have Laya, well, you have to ban her, right? Because she's going to push back your entire team and reset their cooldowns. And because she needs 0 speed, you can run her on literally like 300% effectiveness and even push back like tank units. Ruel, yeah, needs a buff, just too slow, just not a good Soul Weaver. Sage Ball, one of the better counter picks. I wouldn't say he's the best, but he's pretty good. Very good against Cleave. I actually used him a lot when climbing to Emperor against Cleavers, and he's very strong. You just need very good effect resist gear. Sea Phantom Politis, I'm gonna put her probably here. Somewhere here. It's hard to say. All of the meta-defining units are very close. It depends on how you play. I'm going to put her probably here though, because I think the other units are slightly better, but she's still very good in Guild Wars offense and defense. She gets countered by Selene and stuff like that, and New Moon Luna kind of destroys her now because she outspeeds her and puts unbuffable and stops her from stealthing. So still a very good unit though, very good at opening, very good with Chinua, and just be careful picking her against like Politis, Selene's, and ML Lunas. Silverblade Aramintha needs a buff, stun unit, but yeah, just gets countered by way too many units and just requires a lot of stats. Solitaria, I think she also needs a buff. She used to be pretty good, but I think she is just not as great anymore. Debuff units just aren't that powerful unless you're Death Dealer Ray or Ambitious Tywin. I guess, I don't know. I think she's like between strong and needs a buff. Maybe there should have been another tier, but I'm going to put her down here. I think she does need a buff. Specimen says, I'm going to put him, I want to put him in strong, because when this unit pops off, he's insane, but he gets countered by a lot of the meta units, so I'm going to put him in niche pick. Very good with stun teams, but if you run into units like, you know, Navy Captain Landy, anything that cleanses, Dragon King Shroon, you're pretty screwed. But she's pretty good into like Dragon Bride Senya and Blood Moon Haste. You can one-shot them, and she synergizes pretty well with, or he synergizes pretty well with Ambitious Tywin, so I'm going to put him down here. S10A, I guess I put her at the bottom of strong. Like, you can use her in RTA, she's not that great though. She's very good for Guild Wars offense though, and also just arena offense, but not as strong as before. We'll put her in the strong tier. Spirit Eye Selene, another niche pick, very good against teams that don't have a way to have fixed damage or extra damage to kill her. That's a very rare scenario, but in those scenarios, she becomes unkillable and will solo carry. So we'll put her in the niche counter pick tier. Stray is another Cleave unit right now, so I'm going to put him down here. Very good with Architect Leica, just one-shots tanks. Sylvan Sage Vivian needs a buff. I guess she is getting buffed. Is it going to be enough though? That's the question. Maybe I'll just put her at the bottom of strong. I don't know if the buffs will make her that much better though. I think I'll keep her down here, to be honest. Tom Model Luluka is a Cleave unit, pretty good. One-shots units, has attack buff, you know, CR push, pretty nice. ML Kairon needs a buff, definitely needs a buff. He is trash, he just requires way too many stats. And yeah, he's pretty hard to use, and he just kind of eventually dies to a lot of these meta units. And yeah, he's just really hard to build. You need effect resist, you need tankiness, you need damage. It's very annoying. Zio, meta defining for sure. I don't know if he's at the top of the top, but he's definitely meta defining. Somewhere around like here, I'd say, probably here. Just because he is a very good counter to Cleave, right? You can stop Cleavers because he will always take the first turn. And he is very good in Cleave, so very good there. Yeah, just a very fast unit, very annoying, very tanky, does a ton of damage, so definitely a meta defining unit. You'll see him all the time in RTA, Guild Wars defense. You can use him in Guild Wars offense against, you know, Conquer Release and stuff like that, so very strong. Urban Shadow Shu, I think she is strong. She used to be meta defining, but now I think she takes a little bit too long to ramp up, and she gets countered by a lot of these units here. Maybe she is meta defining. I'm gonna keep her in strong though. Her injuries are insane, best injury unit in the game. She also is just a ton of damage, and she's pretty tanky on Proof of Valor. But the thing is, she does die to a lot of units, and she takes very long to ramp up, right? Savior Aiden destroys her. She gets shut down by anything that sees her, and just, you know, sometimes feels underwhelming, but in the right situations, if you pick her later into the draft, for RTA, she's very strong. For Guild Wars offense, she's also very strong if you pick her into units that rely on scaling with health, but I think she's mostly a World Arena RTA pick. So yeah, that is pretty much it for this tier list though. This is my PvP tier list for ML 5 stars. You know, this video did take a lot longer than it did in the past because we have so many new units, and I think the meta is way more balanced now. We had way more units that needed to be buffed, but a lot of ML units are now like, to some extent, playable, if not like strong. There's not a lot of units that really need buffs anymore, but I think Smilegate did a great job recently buffing them a lot, so I had a lot to talk about. If you guys want to see more tier lists like this, make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video.